The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode.
The summer of 2004 at 20.
Welcome back to the Brandon Peters Show in the summer of 2004 at 20. A weekend by weekend look at the movies released that year and the pop culture that surrounded them. Joining me as always from Puck News and The Outside Scoop, which this week is the Princess Diaries, some of our customer favorite flavors that are discounted, including Yogurt O, Gelato State, and AVP, Almond Vanilla Pecan. It's Scott Mendelson.
Hi. Those went they got worse as they went along.
Almonds and pecan. What is this? Homework?
Oh, and from We Live Entertainment and Out Now with Aaron and Abe, his shins are loud, but only because they're jamming in his earbuds. Aaron Neuwirth.
Correct. And hi. Happy to be here. Let's do this.
Let's do this. This is the final 3 weeks here. The project is almost complete. Once again, it's like, how did we get here? We watched a ton of movies. Yes. And then we also watch movies for other things. And then when we sit down, kick back, and relax, we watch more movies. That's who we are. That's what we do.
That's accurate, yeah.
You watch, I was just recording with Chris Johnson earlier today. He's like, you watch a lot of movies. Damn. I'm like, yeah, and when I relax, I watch more movies.
The letterbox list I have is at 63 right now for this podcast, which of course I'll make public after the weekend. And
I think we hit 83 at the end or something like that.
At the end, we'll have something like that. But oh boy, what a fun collection of films this is.
Yeah. Oh, it's a very varied slate. But yeah. So before we get into today's films, let's shuffle our deck with some news.
And I found a reason for you. And the reason is news.
The games return once more to the place of their birth, to the people who would not let them die.
The Olympic Games of the year 2004 is Athens.
Who died?
Oh, you want to start there?
I don't know.
Well, Scott, this week dying. King Kong couldn't do it back then, but Fay Wray passed away. 2004 did it to her. Fay Wray from the original King Kong passed away this week.
Threw herself off a building. That's nice. It's not true remotely.
Jumped into a cage at the zoo. David Raskin, film and TV composer.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Politician Robert LaCourte. Jazz guitarist Tony Mottola. George Yandley III, a Hall of Fame basketball player from the Fort Wayne Pistons. So back in the day, before they were the Detroit Pistons, they were the Fort Wayne Pistons, birthplace of the host of this podcast. Godfrey Hansfield, a Nobel Prize winner and inventor of the CT scan.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. Actor Peter Woodthorpe and TV chef Julia Child.
Oh, that was 2004. Okay.
Yeah. 2004, deaths of 2004. But now let's go back. Let's talk about these news stories. Scott was morbidly eager to get to the deaths. On August,
no ornithologist died this week.
On August 12th, Lee Hsien Loong succeeds Goh Chok Tong as Prime Minister of Singapore.
Well earned.
Kudos.
He did it. Yeah, kudos. I hope that's a kudos, right?
As you're saying this, I assume you later on when you edit this, you lay on the graphics of like mass murderers, conspiracy, and stuff.
I need John Oliver to tell me what this means
and where Singapore is. I know where Singapore is. It's under the island over there.
Right. That same day, New Jersey Governor James McGreevey comes out publicly as gay.
Gay. Oh yeah.
I remember this. It was a big deal.
Okay.
I remember it was a big deal back in the day when Mayor Pete here in Indiana came out.
How's he doing?
Guess he's transporting.
but not the cool Jason Statham version.
Yeah.
It's the lame. What's his name?
He's not Transporter 2-ing. He's
No.
Transporter 3.
Yeah.
That's mean. Don't say things you can't take back.
He's Olivier Megatonin. Yeah.
He's Transporter refueling.
Ed Skrein. That's his name.
Oh, okay. Ed Skrein. Yeah. The next day, 156 Congolese Tutsi refugees were massacred at the Gutomba refugee camp in Burundi.
I was kind of hoping the sentence would end with they were hugged or something, but no.
No, that's awful. Also, Black Friday crackdown by NSS on a peaceful protest in the capital city of Maldives, Malay. So
Yay.
Oh, but don't worry, folks. That same day, the 28th Olympic Games opened in Athens, Greece.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, big. We have it's an Olympic year. It's an election year. Spider-Man came back this year.
And Greece has had a surplus of an economy ever since.
Yeah, Reagan checked out. Yeah,
That's how you phrase it.
Dunstan checks in. Reagan checks out.
He took the last subway to out of office.
Good trade.
Marlon Brando said there were no more parts to play. Yeah. So the next day on August 14th, the Australian women's 4x100-meter freestyle relay team of Alice Mills, Elizabeth Lenton, Petria Thomas, and Jodie Henry smashed the world record to take the gold in 3:35.94 at the Athens Olympics. So people be swimming.
So you should smash that subscribe button.
Smash, yeah. And then the next day, Bay of Plenty defeat Auckland 33-26 in rugby union to win New Zealand's Ranfurly Shield for the first time in the Shield's 102-year history and after 28 unsuccessful challenges.
Bit of scrum.
Yep.
Okay.
And in golf news this week at the PGA Championship men's Whistling Straits GC, Vijay Singh of Fiji wins his second PGA Championship in a playoff with Chris DeMarco and Justin Leonard. I remember VJ.
Yeah.
Then lastly, on August 15th, the South African 4x100-meter freestyle relay team of Roland Schumann, Lyndon Ferns, Darian Townsend, and Rick Needling smash the world record with 3:13.17 at the Athens Olympics. So a lot of big swimming event, like record-setting swimming events and stuff. We have a birthday this week, guys.
Okay.
Marseille Martin, actress and producer of Blackish.
Yeah, the little sister, the younger sister.
Oh, the tiny one. Yes.
From what's the movie?
Little.
Little. Yeah, not big. Little. Yeah.
Damn.
He's like the youngest producer, like ever, or something like that. Like
Yes.
Yeah. And then married this week, Seinfeld's John O'Hurley and Lisa Meslow was Elaine's boss.
Yeah.
Remember? Peterman. Josh Brolin and Diane Lane.
Uh-huh.
And then
and that would go on
How did that turn out?
for a few time periods and then would end abruptly for reasons. No charges filed. Just saying, that's true.
Yeah.
you star in Unfaithful. You don't live it. No, I don't.
Oh, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole.
No. So, and then lastly, Nikki Hilton and businessman Todd Andrew Meister. So not just Paris having herself time in the spotlight here.
I hope his card says businessman on it, like no descript, like position of what he actually does. It just says businessman.
So
Good.
yeah,
Successful. Is that it? Is that all the news?
that is the news.
Can I interrupt with my own news?
Yeah.
Last week, because this is a callback, we talked about Open Water, of course, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Said on that podcast, by the time we get to this episode, I'll have watched Open Water 2 and 3.
Oh,
Brandon,
catching up.
I have watched Open Water 2 and 3, and boy, are those movies they filmed with cameras.
Did
I
it
will
make
say
you
this.
pine for the husband?
No, I will say this. 2 is, in fact, better than the first one. I enjoyed it more. It lacks the novelty of the first one by default because it's not even an open water movie. They just put the title on it.
Yeah, it's a Troll 2 kind of situation.
Yeah, it's exactly
Oh, God.
the
Okay.
kind of situation, including the Neblugs. But
What?
it is. I enjoyed that one more. Open Water 3, though. Oh, boy. They go for found footage, which is interesting, but
Okay.
they go for found footage like in the same way that like Survival of the Dead goes for found footage,
Oh,
where it's like we've like added stuff to like make it more cinematic, that kind of thing, and it's not it's a bad
I'm
movie.
coming to you from the dead, having edited in my bay.
It's
in
the
the
kind of
pits of
movie where
hell.
like in all I feel like the running theme in all of these is that I pretty much hate all the characters.
Oh, that's consistent.
That is consistent, but like the third one has like the worst instances of characters doing things that are like you could have been out of this situation and you've made it worse on yourself for reasons. It's not good. So
That's
yeah,
great.
there we go.
And you had to watch one of these movies this week that I'm sure we all can't wait to talk about in tandem with that.
That's right.
So cool. All right, so let's move on to our first movie, which has actually been out for 3 weeks now, in terms of this, but we shuffle things around. This is the third week, expanding to 175 theaters is Garden State.
Andrew Largeman is having one of those lifetimes.
I made you something. It's a shirt. Gorgeous.
But this morning,
I recognize you from TV.
life
Do you play the retarded quarterback? Are you really retarded?
No.
Cool.
just took a turn for the wonderful. Zach Braff, Natalie Portman.
Changed my life, and I've known you 4 days. This is the beginning of something really big.
Garden State, rated R, now playing.
Directed by Zach Braff, written by Zach Braff, starring Zach Braff, Natalie Portman, Peter Sarsgaard, Ian Holm, Michael Weston, Jim Parsons, Gene Smart, Jackie Hoffman, Ron Liebman, and Dowd, and got a little Steven Method Man in there, right?
Oh yeah,
he's on TV and in the movies, probably in our ears too with music. He's in the Alicia Keys music video for "If I Ain't Got You" that's been in the charts all summer. So
I hope he's on making his stage debut at this time also somewhere maybe.
Yeah, heck yeah, I love Method. So
Red a one night show would be great.
A quietly troubled young man returns home for his mother's funeral after being estranged from his family for a decade. His mother, who was once, twice, 3 times a lady, as we find out in this movie. But the scene where the funeral was is his aunt singing, once, twice, 3 times a lady.
Yeah, Jackie Hoffman, who has one of my favorite lines in that movie, where she, in case you wait another 9 years to come back and see us again.
Oh, okay. So, Garden State. Aaron, let's kick off here.
Garden State is a movie that, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, was the first trailer for this movie a Super Bowl commercial? Am I wrong on that?
Quite possibly.
I think it was. I distinctly remember everybody kind of seeing this trailer at the same time, and I'm pretty sure it was January or February for Super Bowl, which would make a level of sense, right? Zach Braff was big on TV at the time, probably maybe a favor from NBC or something. I was looking forward to this movie plenty. This is 2004, so recall that I'm 16 or whatever. I had no reason to be weirdly skeptical. I was just I like Zach Braff on Scrubs. He's making a movie. That sounds neat. Hey, look at this trailer. It's visually interesting. It has, music of the time that I like. And so I eventually, when it came around, because it was, like you said, it expanded over a few weeks, so I saw it eventually. Who did I see it with? Let me think about that for a second. I think I saw it with a couple friends. I don't think I saw it with my mom or my dad. Yeah, I think I saw it with a friend or two. And I enjoyed it well enough. I thought at the time, I don't think just based on the fact that like he's so goofy on scroll. I think it was more like the trailer had a different kind of energy than I expected the movie to have because his role in this is very I'm turned off and the now the medication's, getting away from me. I'm actually, over time progressing and becoming more of a person again. So like I think the initial reaction I had was this isn't exactly like the kinetic indie movie that I might have been expecting to see. At the same time, though, I did appreciate what it was doing for the most part as a kind of character drama comedy thing. Obviously we'll talk about this, but like it'll get hit with like the Manic Pixie Dream Girl thing and like tropes of indie type comedy dramas like this or what have you. At the time, as a person that's just not worn down by the internet cynicism, I was just watching this thinking, this is a nice movie. Like I enjoyed it. I like the soundtrack. I found that, picked up. I didn't like obsess over it in the same way that Braff and his acolytes did, but I mean, I enjoyed the music well enough, and revisited a few times over the years. I've always felt it was a strong word. I think the movie itself it's like it's an average one of these as far as like indie comedy dramas go, but I think what it has working in its favor is that it becomes this kind of episodic feature where you get just a lot of cool character performances from people like Peter Sarsgaard, Gene Smart, Jim Parsons in a rare like bitchy role, which is kind of fun to see. Um, and a lot of people that just kind of like pop in and out, some longer than others. So yeah, and I've rewatched it fairly recently. Then I rewatched it again for this because I'm committed to this podcast, and so I like kind of so watching it with like 2020s context, nothing's really changed for me. I can see where some people are just like want to throw words like pretentious around at it. I don't like using that word very much when I talk about movies, but like I get where that comes from. I just don't really agree with it. I feel like it's earnest in the way that Braff is proven to be throughout his career, and I don't think that's a detriment. I think that's just a staple of what he brings as a performer. And like I said, it's enjoyable. It's an enjoyable little film.
Scott?
I've always enjoyed this one. Excuse me, I'm gonna cough. Excuse me. I saw it in theaters relatively late-ish into its run, probably not till like August, give or take, maybe, yeah. And I was aware of it. I knew what it was. It was just something I casually sought out. And even then, yes, there were a certain, almost quirky indie sensibility right as that kind of film was starting to become sort of a subgenre unto itself. I'm actually quite fond of Thumbsucker, which would come out the next year.
What about the Chum Scrubber?
It's fine. I like Thumbsucker better.
It came out the same like time.
Scott, when I first met Scott, he was preaching the Church of Thumbsucker.
Thumbsucker is the better movie. I agree.
And it was a
Well, there's what like Igby Goes Down.
Yeah. Igby, there was what
Running
was
with Scissors.
Wasn't Chump Scrubber the other one? Was that the other? Like who was in Chump Scrubber?
I don't remember. They all kind of blend after
Yeah, there's like a blend, and there's I Heart Huckabees.
Thumbsucker has Keanu Reeves. I know that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons that it's like I had forgotten how much I enjoyed him in that kind of role because that was sort of during his, I don't want to say fallow period, but he wasn't exactly on screen all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he was, playing around and doing different stuff. Anyway, back to Gardenscape.
Yeah.
Natalie Portman's character is very annoying in her first scene, but obviously that's the intent. But then once she becomes part of the story, and I think she's fine. And again, I mean, is she there basically to be a guiding light for his journey? Yes. But you know what? It's his fucking movie. And this was before, I don't want to say, I mean, if we argue that character more or less invented the so-called Manic Pixie Dream Girl trope,
I'll say it right there. It's Elizabethtown that became a thing.
Yeah.
Which was later.
Yeah.
Which is later.
No, it's it's the next year.
I'll get to that in a second. Because this film felt very much like someone trying to do a Cameron Crowe coming of age story.
Yeah.
And yet Cameron Crowe makes Elizabethtown a year and a half later that I would argue is very much inferior to Garden State.
It's a bad movie, so yeah.
But as far as the Portman character, I mean, if we argue that this character more or less invented this trope, then it was basically a singular character in a singular motion picture that I think, like a lot of films that become sort of accidental cult favorites or whatever, he gets sort of held up to a skewed standard as a representational fable when in a vacuum it's just one person making a very personal story that relates to his idiosyncrasies and tics and neurosis and all that jazz. That being said, it's very sweet. It moves very quickly. It's not particularly long. One thing I do like about Zach Braff's work as a director is that as much as he often gets tagged as Mr. Vanity or whatever, he tends to give most of the best scenes to the supporting cast.
I have that in my notes. Yeah. Like I want to say like he's a pretty solid director here, and he's got the most boring part of them all. Like he's got some dramatic chop scenes, but like everybody else is having fun, colorful, and is going to get noticed before him.
Yes.
So I don't know how that's in vain.
I remember when I saw his next picture.
His next picture.
Not The Last Kiss, the other one. The one they kickstarted.
Wish You Were
Here.
Oh, yeah.
And that again, it was very personal, very idiosyncratic, very Jewish.
Very Jewish, yes.
Which is probably why he felt he, needed to fund it himself. But even that picture, the best scenes of the film are the ones with Kate Hudson and Mandy Patinkin. And especially 20 years later, I'm sort of a fan of Zach Braff, the director, because I think to a certain extent he's one of the few people, especially right now, that I think makes decently budgeted character pieces that look like old school movies that aren't playing in the Oscar season.
What's his last one called from last year?
Good Person.
Good Person.
Good Person.
With Pugh and Freeman.
It was their breakup film.
They are very good in that movie.
Yeah. I think it's Morgan Freeman's best performance in a decade.
In a long time. He's really good in that movie.
Yeah. And
but they're good.
Yeah. They're all fine. But he's a very generous director when it comes to his actors in a way that I think has gone comparatively unnoticed. But as far as this picture, I do think it is both more and less than some of its reputation. I don't necessarily think it deserves to get all the crap that gets heaped on it as this all-encompassing representation of everything wrong with indie cinema in the mid-2000s. But I also think it's a very good movie outside of its hipster popularity.
Yeah.
For what that's worth.
It's funny because like anybody with a vision or a voice or wants to tell a personal story is like chocked with vanity, full, like all this crap. And it's like they're acting like they're Tommy Wiseau doing The Room. It's like, that's not what this is. I saw Garden State and again, college, empty theater. And then, I bought the DVD and now I'm going to show everybody, and everybody liked, everybody liked it. And like, I really enjoyed the movie a lot back then. Now I'm just like, yeah, this is solid. I sort of like, I don't know, like where I was with that it just hit in such a right way. The one thing I going back to this movie, I'm like, I just don't, one of the things with this character, like I get how they are, but I'm supposed to believe this guy is an actor and like doing these, these crazy parts, like that just kind of.
It seems like a past his prime actor. Like he.
Is that what it's? Because he's so young, I feel like he's still hungry and trying to get it, but he's.
I always feel like he's the kind of guy that he peaked like a decade before he. Now, and he's still clinging on to the idea that he's an actor, but he hasn't really. Okay. I think that's reflected by the end. It's like, what is he moving back to? Like, stay in New Jersey.
And I have to say, I mean, it's personal to agree that this is, I imagine, some of this like character interactions have happened to Zach Braff because like being someone who's like lived in California and done some stuff and then like come back home to visit and stuff, and you see people and random, and this like the way they interact and treat you and stuff is like oddly familiar. It became more familiar here now watching the film than when I was watching it back then. And it even fits with like just like if you went away to college and come back to visit, like in a way of seeing people back home. The Sarsgaard stuff really like hits, I think, a lot. Like I think he's like one of the prime focuses here, just like what this guy does in town and his relationship with his mother.
And I don't think it's not like Sarsgaard's like his fire's gone out or anything, but this is when he was really like in these random parts like this.
Yeah, where he was becoming the kind of I don't trust this guy kind of part.
It's also like if he's around, I'm like, that's going to be an effective character performance.
Right?
Like,
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Specifically.
And I'll give it credit. Like Jim Parsons has a star-making turn in one scene. Like
he's
one
moment. It's great.
It says balls on your forehead.
Yeah.
You enjoy digging grave? Like it's amazing. And then like when I wasn't a fan of the show, but I saw him on like the cast of The Big Bang Theory when it started, and I gave it a shot because I'm like, oh, that's that guy from that Garden State movie. He was really good in that. And Gene Smart here, like looking like, oh man, her and Allison Janney gonna be battling for these parts for years.
Yeah.
You know, it's like an Allison Janney part, for sure. And she'd have, you know, one in like just a couple years later in Juno, but could easily those two could switch things. But I like the relationship with the mom, always like, oh, he's gonna be a realtor, you know, these like it's a small town thing of like thinking something sounds easier than it is, and it's not. Like, oh, real estate realtors make money, but yeah, they got to work their ass. Like, I don't think people realize real estate people eat, sleep, and drink selling homes to make their money. Like, it's an insane job, and this guy's gonna do it. But then he's also fine with where he's at. There's the guy that makes too much money at a young age and is just blowing it, and so that's some funny shit.
He's just a bored millionaire who has nothing to do, so he's just like, all right,
right. Yeah, but and then Natalie Portman shines completely here.
That's the other thing that gets overlooked. I think it's like, yes, it becomes a trope, but she's also like she's good in the role.
Yeah, she's terrific.
Yeah. Like it's just her and Kate Winslet doing Eternal Sunshine just happened to happen. They couldn't have known of each other when these movies are being made. They just happen upon it, and they're actually, I think they're good characters, and great performances from people. Like, I don't think there's this manic pixie dream girl thing, but like, I mean, these are stories. These are stories being written by men. Men are allowed to tell their stories. Women should get to do theirs too, where we have a manic pixie fuckboy or something like that. I don't know, but there should be allowed as well.
Winslet gets the benefit of being in the better movie that's an Oscar-nominated performer.
Better movie, and it's somewhat fantasy too, so
it has a lot more working in its favor, and there's not the baggage of it being this kind of supposed vanity project.
And it's memories in a head, so maybe they're not exactly the way they happen.
There's more layers to it that like make it still, because I don't see a lot of pushback in that regard beyond just saying, yeah, she qualifies, I guess, but I'm not mad at it. Like, it's a little different.
Having recently, in the last couple of years, having to revisit Elizabethtown, I really didn't notice. I think Kirsten Dunst that way either. I don't know where, that I think that got unfairly. That's the one that started it, but I'm like, it didn't fit when I watched it the last time. Did the movie improve? No, but I was like, there's a lot of shit thrown on this movie that I just think maybe was getting added. But
I don't think Elizabethtown is good. But after having seen it, after I watched Aloha, I was like, at least Elizabethtown is going for it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Nathan Rabin's the author that invented the term and ascribed it.
Yeah,
he's since like gone back and said, like, I regret like making this a thing because it did catch a certain kind of fire.
Yes.
And these were good parts for the females too. Yeah.
It wasn't something he intended. It was just more of like, this is
it never is. Yeah. I mean, the guy that started the Marvel versus Scorsese thing, it was totally by accident. He was an Empire author. He was an interviewer. He was talking to Scorsese about the aging effects. And he brought up Marvel.
Yeah.
And then Scorsese went on a tear. He's like, what are we going to do? Not record that?
Yeah.
Cha-Cha Real Smooth, which I saw a couple years ago and I enjoyed. That's arguably a pretty good movie about a guy who's sort of a manic pixie dream boy, but it's told from his point of view.
That's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think Braff's got an eye here that shows up. He's certainly got a good solid thing with pace, and where he learns to make it episodic. That's fun. And the Ian Holm stuff, like, I don't know.
He's very. I mean, he's good. He's Ian Holm. He's a good.
He's Ian Holm. He's good, but
he's very gruff and playing American. And I'm just like, I'm not used to this as Ian Holm, but it's like
Right.
it's not a bad performance by any means.
no,
And
no.
it's I can't speak to how much specificity there is, but it does feel really rooted and grounded with those scenes in particular, where as far as like a estranged father and son dynamic and like what they're going through.
I think if there's one thing to throw on the pretentious is the music with it being like, oh, this is the cool stuff I listen to, but it's also like, this is what I listen to. Of course, it's going to be in the movie, but there is the one part where they have to like point out the shins, and that's maybe a little bit of a pretentious move. I don't know, but there's what Coldplay's in here.
There's a lot of
and stuff like it's a good soundtrack.
The Service is the big hit number came on because they did that remake of that song.
Yeah, it's a good soundtrack. I think
funny. I don't know how to judge a movie like this for like making those kinds of choices when it seems rooted in the the author of its mind frame. It's like I don't know.
Yeah.
And because it's like indie and alt rock music, it's not like it's not like they put Smoke on the Water because they went to Vietnam. Like, there's nothing obvious about the choices beyond when you look back at it. It's like, okay, it's a very OO soundtrack, I guess. But...
No, if it's Vietnam, you do Satisfaction. That's like...
Or anything CCR.
Yes. Yeah. Run through the jungle. Yep.
Run through the jungle.
Yeah. So, no, this is...
For a jungle.
This is a solid one. This is good. I think it deserves the accolades it got of the time for sure. I did go. Yeah, this movie made me like, oh, Last Kiss coming out. Go see that one.
Never saw that one. Is that any good?
I saw it in the theater and I haven't seen it since. And I remember it being okay. It's a big sad movie.
What is called The Last Kiss?
And it's a remake too.
Yeah, it's a remake of a French picture.
Yeah,
I have seen Zach Braff's Going in Style,
which I enjoyed.
It's okay. I've just seen the original Going in Style. I'm like, this is no Zach Braff's no Martin Brest.
Gotcha. And our next movie is No Poker as we go to Yu-Gi-Oh! It's Yu-Gi-Oh! The movie - Pyramid of Light. And yeah.
Your cards on the table.
There is one card so powerful, so dangerous, so uncontrollable, it could even defeat Yugi. It was locked away forever until now.
Yugi, we've only got one chance left.
With the future at stake, the world turns to one person, Yu-Gi-Oh! The movie. And when you see Yu-Gi-Oh! The movie, you can receive one of 4 special Yu-Gi-Oh! cards you can't get anywhere else. Yu-Gi-Oh! The movie. Rated PG. Now playing only in theaters.
Directed by Hatsuki Tsuji, written by Matthew Dreck, Lloyd Goldfine, and Norman J. Grossfeld, Michael Pecorello, on an original story by Mashiro Hikakubu and Junki Takigami, on a concept by Kazuki Takahashi.
Who's in it?
From an idea by David Mamet.
Yeah. Sorry. Gregory Abbey, Sebastian Arcellus, Ben Barron, Amy Birnbaum, Madeline Blaustein, Christopher Collette, Darren Dunstan, and Wayne Grayson. Underneath the sands of Egypt, Anubis, an ancient evil spirit has awakened. It's up to Yugi, who defeated Anubis centuries ago, to use his skill and determination to rid the world of evil once again. Guys, I'm sorry that we did 2
I'm not.
Hey, I believe Scott wrote like 1,000-word Mendelson memo on this movie back in the day.
I will
absolutely.
I
traveled back in time to 4 years before I started writing to
Yep. I will cede this to Scott.
I have to assume even people that grew up on anime and are big fans of stuff like Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon probably point and laugh at Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's not even a criticism because it's so on the nose of what you think anime is, whether you like it or not, in that it's literally these ridiculously outsized characters spouting, dubbed, admittedly, over-the-top sensationalistic dialogue while playing a game of gin rummy with the world being at stake. And I love it. I mean, I'll never, it's not like I'm going to watch every episode of this nonsense, but I wasn't bored. It's like, it's like 90 minutes. It was like, what ridiculously absurd thing is going to be said next time? I mean, I do play my share of cards, and I've never accidentally unleashed an apocalypse while playing Ochre. I've never had to battle mummies while playing, blackjack. So that's if if I were playing Go Fish and fairies came out, I might play more Go Fish. Just saying. Yeah, this film's insane, but I'm assuming it's exactly source faithful, and it's just so what the fuck, but it's so gleefully what the fuck, and I can't be mad at this picture because when I was watching it, I kept trying to imagine that the two main characters, the good guy and the bad guy, I guess, that are playing this game of cards for life or death are basically De Niro and Pacino in Heat, reenacting the diner scene over and over again.
Put that on the poster.
Yes. And so it makes me want to know more about this franchise in terms of how it's perceived in the anime community, because it's just so absurd. It'd be like if they made a movie of Battleship, and they did, and it's terrible, but in this movie of Battleship, it's literally characters sitting at a table playing Battleship. And best movie of the summer. Your turn.
Okay, Scott, that was amazing. I kept thinking you were walking me to a punchline, and then no, and then walking again, and no. A little bit more for a walk.
You shouldn't have given him the benefit of the doubt on that one.
No. BOTD. Wow. Aaron.
I put this movie on last week, and I fell right asleep. And so I needed to wake up and start it over again. So technically, my Hoopla account's seen this movie twice.
I will say, Aaron and I had a joke recently where I showed him my last rentals on Hoopla. I go, summer 2004 has made my Hoopla look like trash. Like it's all bad movies.
Thunderbirds.
That wasn't on Hoopla.
Oh, whatever. I don't know.
I was like Little Black Book, Yu-Gi-Oh, Sleepover, and something else. I was like, Jesus.
It would certainly fit for Hoopla.
Yeah, no, it could. Well, this was like everywhere. Like I just chose Hoopla because I wouldn't get ads, but it's on like Pluto, Tubi, every free service there is.
So I have no experience of Yu-Gi-Oh whatsoever. I know it's a card thing. And I'm like, okay, so like Pokemon, but like the B team, it's the VR Troopers to the Power Rangers. And
wait. Hold on a second. We gotta all do this, or just let me do this.
Okay.
Forces of darkness, empower me. Take me back to my virtual reality. Okay, continue.
We are VR.
Summer of 2004 at 20, now playing.
Smash that subscribe button. I have, like I said, no experience with Yu-Gi-Oh, so like the idea of me watching this, I was intrigued as far as, well, at least I'll have like some semblance of what's going on in the anime version of this. And I mean, sure, I do, because every character explains every single action that takes place for 90 minutes straight. It's literally going in and be like, oh, there he is, and he has his cards, and look, he's called upon the lion. Oh no, he has two other things as well, and they're merging with the lion. Now the lion's part car and part zebra, and it's like that. But it's okay, I have my invulnerability, and here we go now, and they're fighting. Oh no, but he has his lion. Like, it's a lot of that. And oh boy, the work I needed to do to stay like focused on this was a real endurance round for me. As one that likes watching movies, this is a film that felt like very anti-movie in a lot of ways, as far as like what genuine like cinema is supposed to be versus this compiled piece of bits of anime together to serve as one of the longest advertisements for a card game I've ever seen. That's for sure. as far like trying to think of things that are like worthwhile about this, like it's colorful, I guess. I mean, you want to talk about source fidelity. I don't think Scott's wrong. It's probably very faithful to the people that are very much enamored with Yu-Gi-Oh! I have no problem with that, and I have no problem with them liking this movie or what I assume are the 26 other Yu-Gi-Oh! Movies that probably exist as well. Um, it's just we and we're going to talk about another one tonight, but like we've talked about a lot of the kind of youth skewing films, specifically ones that are targeted towards like a female demographic or what have you. This is targeted towards a very specific demographic, obviously, and I've tried to be as like
fucking nerds.
I say we hyper specific, like hyper.
And I've tried to be as fair as possible as far as what I see that makes this thing worthwhile or has elements that does this or that or makes one thing better than another thing. And I don't have much here to say beyond like it probably does the job for the people that want to see this. Otherwise, there's just I'm not in the Scott realm of throw this in my eyes, please. It's wild. Like I've seen plenty of wild things this summer. And this one again put me right to sleep the first time. So I don't have more to expand on from that.
So like Yu-Gi-Oh for me is I just knew it was a thing the kids were into that was probably like that Pokemon stuff they were into. Like I missed the Pokemon wave hit when I was just like a little too old for Pokemon. Like I was able to catch the tail end. Like Power Rangers started where I was questionably maybe too old for it when I first started watching, but I was still like, yeah, you can watch it. That's fine.
My pocket monster was a Tamagotchi, so
there you go. I did get what was
none
the
of
ones...
those words are in the Bible.
When I worked at Toys R Us, we all bought the Digi ones that you like grew and fought each other with.
Or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, we get the ones that fought. So like this thing, like I start this movie. My son walks by and says, "Are you watching Yu-Gi-Oh? The Yu-Gi-Oh?" I'm like, "It's a movie. It's for the pirate." He's like, "Oh man, it's Yu-Gi-Oh sucks." I'm like, "Oh." I'm like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "Yeah, it's all just cards and stuff." I'm like, "Well, this is the movie version. Like, it's not the game.
That's not going to be the same thing.
It's not the game. It was literally the whole movie was, and they animated characters to just sit and play cards with each other, and I was stunned. I couldn't believe it. And funny you brought up open water, Aaron.
Yes,
because I had in my notes like the villain / maybe he's the good guy. I couldn't tell. The guy going after Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yugi.
The guy going after Yugi. Yeah. Yeah, that was like, oh, it's like then like I thought he was the bad guy, and then it was like, no, maybe Yugi's bad right now and he's helping him. I don't care. That guy was like if the husband from Open Water was like the like guy, like a character in an anime. Because all he did was sit there like acting like an expert. I play this card, which means I flipped it. It's the instructional guide that I can't figure out like at all. Like it is, I opened it up and it was some other planet's language. I have never, and we've watched bad movies here on these before. I have never had one where I couldn't figure out what was going on, or at least for a moment understand something. Like this was so hardcore for its audience. So, and granted, I didn't prep. I didn't watch whatever Yu-Gi-Oh! I needed to, or read whatever, buy cards or anything, or play.
Big fan.
Yeah. But I'm sitting there like, oh my God, this might be one of the potentially worst movies that a kid ever dragged a parent to for a parent.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't go.
Could you imagine? Well, I could just sit and watch it, blah, blah. This would have been like, what the? I'm going to go smoke. Like that. I don't even smoke. I'm going to go smoke. You guys, I'll be in the car. I think sitting in the car might have been less painful. Like they're playing card. They're explaining to me everything going on, and I still don't have that's the whole movie is explaining what's happening, and I have no idea. And you have all this animation just to have guys standing at a table and like a static beast appear. Like I'm not moving, just like I'm here. And it's like now we're gonna combine these, and literally, I was like, okay, this might look cool. It's not cool when they combine. Like there was one where it was literally like we just overlap the animation on each other, and that's it now. Now it's more powerful. I couldn't get like I could not latch in. I had a hard time paying attention. It's a short movie, thankfully, and I'm just like, I don't know what I thought. Yugi, they started with him, and then like, oh, that's our protagonist. Cool, he's looking for this, and then like I'm like, well, maybe he's not right now, or they're all together and they play this.
It does ramp up from simple explanation to what this world is to card game, and I'm like, okay,
this is baffling to me. Like this, it's so weird. Like I've never been so disconnected with a movie in my life. I don't, and I don't want to sound extreme or being like all exaggerative, but I really could not connect with. Like I'm just like wow, and I know I'm not the anime guy, and I'm always trying to. I'm not going to hold this against any anime. Like I saw The Boy and the Heron last year. It's fucking awesome. Right?
Yeah, this isn't the movie.
I watched Chainsaw Man last year. I enjoyed it. I also got another recommendation from my man Chris Johnson today to watch that he thinks I'll like. I might check it out. It's a limited one, so I don't have to. Death Note. He said I'd probably like that one.
Yeah, don't watch the movie.
Not the movie, or the live action one I heard.
I know, yeah.
He's like, you need to have time between when you finish it and then just like watch a little bit of that movie, just watch how bad they mess it up. Like, but so yeah, this was just not, I mean, wow. Like I could follow along with like a Pokemon movie. Like I get, they actually like move and do stuff. These guys sit in a room with a table and lay cards down, and the cards, which look like they're like scanned graphics to try to put on there to sell merchandise, like bizarre. I couldn't believe, like my son literally said all they do is play cards, and I was like, or it's just a card game thing. I'm like, okay, and then like he was not lying. I was like, oh well, this is the movie version of that. I'm like, wow, someone really thought you would want us kids want to sit and watch guys lay down cards, but I guess it's an gigantic advertisement for playing the game.
Casino Royale.
Yeah, the exact equivalent.
They take breaks.
I mean, I was thinking while watching this movie that I would like to, I'd like to see a version of Casino Royale where they play this game instead of Texas Hold'em.
That 10-minute spoof sounds amazing. Tonight's movie was not amazing. It did make me pine for watching a Pokemon movie instead of this. I mean, at least the stakes there are pretty simple. He wants to be the very best. So
yeah,
like no one was before.
Exactly.
This is a crazy chapter in the history of the Summer of series, because we thought we'd seen it all. We thought, remember that pirate movie that sucked, Scott? I would watch that again.
Oh no, that was much.
Oh my god,
I'm not saying this film was good in any way, shape, or form, but as something like no, it's as
I at least understood that movie.
I've seen more confusing anime than this, because my kids like anime, and there are times where I'm thrown in the deep end with no lifeboat.
Yeah, but if you have no context, I mean that's different than something like this where it's presenting this thing to you, and I'm still lost.
I'm granted.
I'm lost. Like I can interpret what's happening. It's more of the actions taking place aren't like, this is not what a movie make. Like that's
what I'm saying. I'm like, who thought this would be exciting? Like I don't. Like there, but I mean, like if you go on YouTube, any like card game and stuff, you will find videos of people sitting around and playing it. Like, and I, as the podcast commissioner, awards commissioner for PopCon, games and hobbies is one of our categories, and we receive a lot of like tabletop game podcast where it's literally a recording of them playing like role-playing games and stuff like that. And I'll say some are better, some are really good at what they do. They actually like add effects and make it like you're listening to something exciting. Some just them playing, it's inside jokes and stuff, and I'm like, I can kind of follow this along, blah blah blah. But they're better at doing that than this. This is not new user friendly. Let's say that. Not new user friendly at all. Like I'm baffled. Like it's crazy, but it was for a specific audience, and I hope they got their parents to take them, because I know none of them are driving. Like, and good to them because they have a better brain than me. It's funny because there's stuff that like when you're young, you digest a lot easier than when you're older and accept. Like I remember, so back in my old podcast, I read Dune in like middle school or like freshman year in high school. No problem, just read it. Good book. And then I was like, we're gonna cover the David Lynch Dune, and I was like, you know what? I want to read the book again and prep for this. I still have my and couple that I'm like, I can't do this. Like I started reading it, I was like, I can't do this. Not in the time I need. Like, no way. And yeah, so I was like, how did I fucking read this when I was in middle school or whatever? But then during pandemic, I read Dune again, but it took a while. Like it's a good book. It's like it's
Yeah,
funny
because
because
you don't have two kids and a wife when you're in middle school, let alone
right,
responsibilities and cares and worries in your life. You're just a kid
yeah,
reading a book.
right, right. So I imagine for Yu-Gi-Oh, there you go. And then when the guy goes like, "No, I've got to play this card," people are like, "Oh shit!"
I mean,
No. Yeah,
we do not need to dissect this for another 5 minutes, but like I get that, but like I respond to that to certain kinds of things still. Like there's
yes,
there
but
are it's which includes stuff that's like intended for kids or what have you. I mean, yes, a hardcore fan would certainly have that kind of yes, please act like reaction to it. But like, I'm not beyond the idea of embracing just utter nonsense for the sake of
yeah,
embracing utter nonsense. I mean, there's
right.
sometimes it's just badly executed.
I hope many parents like found a screening of something else that was concurrent and around the same time and like, you guys in there? I'm gonna be over in Garden State over here in the other.
I'm gonna go watch Tom Cruise kill people in a taxi cab.
This
Yeah.
is why they.
Meet
This
in
is why
lava.
they. This is why they made it in a sequel to Snake 2 on your Nokia
Yeah.
phone. This movie.
If I'm not out yet, the movie's just gonna restart again. Stay in your seat. This is 2004. I don't think we have a. Oh, do we? Some places have assigned seating because I remember when I moved, 2005, ArcLight had assigned seating. That was the first instance I ever saw of being able to pick your seat in a movie theater. Was the ArcLight in Hollywood?
Well, I mean, Scott, I watched both Open Waters last week, so your assignment is to watch the other Yu-Gi-Oh movies after this episode.
All of them. And
No.
one season of TV.
In one season.
So yeah. Oh, let's just be done with Yu-Gi-Oh. I have played my hand.
I tried it in my deck.
Yes. So let's head to TV ratings. I'm worn out of it.
Next Wednesday on an all-new Law & Order.
Looks like a 22.
Ripped from the headlines, a tourist murdered, a city scandal of international proportions.
To ensure that justice is done.
You think you know who did it, but this is Law & Order.
If you're gonna lie, at least be a little creative.
And it's all new. NBC next Wednesday.
This week,
Number
number
one,
one.
Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, I'm not putting that hot take in any clip, Scott. So number one is the Summer Olympics opening ceremony on NBC with 25 million viewers.
Oh,
Yay, monoculture.
Yeah. Number two is the Saturday Olympics coverage on NBC with 19.8 million viewers. Number three is a rerun of CSI Miami, 11.9 million. Regular CIS at number 4, 11.5. Law and Order SVU on NBC with 11.1 at number 5. Without a Trace on CBS at number 6 at 10.7 million. Number 7, a new episode of The Amazing Race on CBS with 10.4 million. Followed by a rerun of 2.5 Men at 9.6 million, also on CBS, as well as number 9's Big Brother Thursday with 9.5 million viewers, and number 10, Law and Order on NBC with 9.3 million viewers, edging out The Simple Life at number 11 with 9.2 million viewers. The Saturday movie on ABC was The Kid from 2000.
Oh,
Disney's The Kid.
Film.
Disney's The Kid.
I believe you're contractually obligated to say, just like Lee Daniels, The Kid.
Yes. So now I want to point something out I thought about with The Simple Life here that It was an interesting thought. I kind of marinated in my brain. I know Paris Hilton. What we all know she was in House of Wax, which is actually a pretty solid movie, to be honest with you guys. Solid recommend.
Agreed.
It's all about the hottie and the naughty.
Chad McElmurray is much better in that than Cinderella Story.
Yes.
So I was thinking The Simple Life kind of is a gateway to something else here, because we start getting these in reality TV with this. We start getting these celebrities for other things rather than being an actor and stuff. And I feel like reality TV starts becoming the gateway because, like, they can't act. We can't give them, we can't force them onto shows. Don't want to give them a show. But if it's reality, they can be a TV star and still have that, like an influencer before influencers were there. So I feel like the reality TV becomes a gateway for, like, I don't know if this person works as like a sitcom actor, dramatic actor, or film actor, but reality wise, like Kim Kardashian will follow in these footsteps. The Hills people, like, they just keep being reality people. So do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, you're speaking to the idea of people that already have like a name out there for reasons, generally extending to the fact
And
that
they used to force them into being actors and things like that. Yeah.
and it doesn't generally pan out until later on because of just popularity. And we can nowadays we can talk about that differently. But like you're speaking to the idea of like, yes, there's people that are becoming celebrity based on other affairs, and then that's kind of packaged into becoming a TV show thing, which is different than like Real World and Road Rules, where there are reality people
correct.
That form a sense of fame, and even like Big Brother in England before it comes over here. Like they form a sense of fame in a certain circle, but outside of that, it's not like any real world people today really that have become like major stars or what have you. Even like MTV VJs, I think, factor into that same category where there's a number of people that come out of that and stay on doing radio podcast.
A lot of them are on Sirius XM now. They've moved over to Sirius. Yeah.
But they establish a sense of fame at it. But like here now we have, you have things like The Simple Life and eventually the Kardashian stuff and all that, where it's rooted in the fact that they already became basically infamous for a reason. And that's somehow, well, I mean,
gotta hold on to the infamy.
You gotta hold on to the infamy, but also because they're from a wealthy background and with means and business people or what have you, they convert it, right? They convert it into a new thing. It's packaged differently. And some have escaped the stigma of why they became famous to begin with, but it's still kind of like, it always lingers in my mind. That's why I don't really care about any of this shit. Like, it does. I think of the origin and it's like, I'm glad some of this goes to good use, but like, I get where this comes from. It's like, I don't know. Nowadays, it's like if you're a TikTok star or something, you can get a movie deal out of it. What's the Scott? What is it? He's all that, right? And then
yes.
That's like what is it? But that's a whole different thing. And then people want to talk about casting movies, and a lot of casting directors base things on the social media clout that people already have before they get cast as an actor in a film. It's a headache.
Gotcha.
And which it's the only, I guess the only frustrating thing about that is the extent that it really doesn't work terribly well, because I would argue, and I think the evidence bears this out over the last many years, there's not a lot of cross pop culture pollination. By that I mean, if you like somebody on TikTok, you're not going to go see their movie necessarily.
No, yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. It's very rare to like find something out of that clicks, which is how movie stardom works to begin with, right? There's not many people that can generate both box office draw as well as critical praise. Like we can talk about movie stars, and especially now when they're becoming less and less, it's a very small list of someone that has all of those things in one.
Right. Internet popularity and social media popularity are a weird gauge of things, because yes, there are some that are very popular, but when it comes to showing up for the need the monetization or to show up for a big event or something like that, that is a, you sometimes you have show up, sometimes people don't, as we see with the box office a lot too. If you're on like a social media, if you have cultivated your sphere you would believe certain things are going to be all the rage, and they don't pan out being that way. And then you neglect the normal people, and they're like, the fuck is this Yellowstone and why is it the most popular show on TV? Like stuff like that comes out of the blue and surprises.
Well,
But
fittingly, it ties into Yu-Gi-Oh, right? I mean, I don't know the box office yet, but things like Yu-Gi-Oh, the various animes, fine. But like, you know what I'm saying, Scott, there's other anime that
Absolutely.
comes out and suddenly makes 20 million in a weekend, and you're like, I've never heard of this before, but clearly there's an audience there that like wanted to see this thing, knew about it for reasons that weren't because they saw a commercial between Law and Order episodes. They just knew this was happening for us.
would you say like the anime crowd has the potential to be like the horror crowd, like they show up?
Yeah, they've been doing that since
Yeah.
the COVID recovery. Frankly,
Yeah.
they call them demographically specific event films.
Yeah.
And I think there's something of value to that because again, these are franchises, IP that are even the ones that have been around for decades. They're still, I would argue, pitched at younger audiences. It's not, releasing Indiana Jones 5 and wondering why the kids don't care.
I know we've gone a little astray of the reality thing, but the interesting thing that I think that America hasn't figured out how to tap into entirely yet is Indian cinema and Chinese cinema, where there are screens for them, and there's an audience that shows up, but not nearly in the way that like an anime film or something has yet. But it's certainly, I feel like that's a thing they're trying to figure out. Then, we'll see what happens. But
no, I get you. Yeah. But yeah, so just something interesting. But speaking of the privilege and
Nikki Hilton got married that weekend, so they wanted to watch A Simple Life, right? So
right. But speaking of nepotism and people with privilege and stuff, let's move on to The Princess Diaries 2, Royal Engagement.
3 years ago, a girl no one noticed.
I'm sorry I didn't see you.
Discovered she was a princess.
Shut up!
Now, Mia, Queen Clarice, Joe, Lily, and Fat Louie are back for the next unforgettable entry in the diary.
I have my own mall. This is so cool!
I'm glad you like it.
The Princess Diaries 2 Royal Engagement.
Sorry!
Rated G. Only in theaters. August 11th.
So, this one's directed by Gary Marshall, written by Shonda Rhimes. Grey's Anatomy was just a spring replacement show, right?
When I saw that credit, I was like, wait a minute. Hold on.
I believe, yeah, it was Grey's was a replacement in 2004, was it? Or yeah.
How about 04? Yeah, I guess
it's 04. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
As the cast of Scrubs said, it's like somebody was watching our lives and put it on TV.
Yeah. On a story by Rhimes and Gina Wenkos, characters by Meg Cabot, starring Anne Hathaway, Julie Andrews, Hector Elizondo, John Rhys Davies, Heather Matarazzo, Chris Pine, Callum Blue, Kathleen Marshall, Larry Miller, and Raven Simone. Now settled in Genovia, Princess Mia faces a new revelation. She is being primed for an arranged marriage to an English suitor. Aaron.
Yes.
It's time. You have been crowned the first to go on the Princess Diaries.
All right. So I've never seen the Princess Diary films until a couple weeks ago. Neither of them. So I watched the first one because I like to prep and I didn't want to get Yu-Gi-Oh'd. And I liked the first one quite a bit. I think it's a charming little movie. It has a fun cast. The premise works well enough. I was surprised to see how hated it was by a lot of critics at the time. Like Ebert fucking hated this movie, and then he hated this one too. But I was like, okay, that was fine for like a Disney thing with them. So getting into the second one, our second Gary Marshall movie of the summer, by the way. I don't want to say like I was looking forward to it as far as like, well, if I like this first one, this is gonna, we're gonna get a real Garfield Tale of Two Kitties around here. Like I don't know, but like I didn't have any like expectation beyond like, okay, there's more of this. Hopefully that works out. It doesn't really like I'm far from hating this movie. It's just more like it's just diminishing returns overall. I think the plotting is it's not good. Like what they're going for here. There's an overriding message that I can appreciate. It's pretty straightforward, but it's a matter of like the queen's been the queen without a husband, and now the next queen needs a husband, and so we should change that. It's like, you're the queen, change the law. Like, I I needed more Genovian politics to really understand, I guess, why things needed to happen the way they did, and why what's his face Gimli needed to be so
Yeah.
mean. But and then like little Chris Pine's here, and I'm like, oh, you have a career coming ahead of you. But
This was the one that started it all.
started it all, but at the same time,
When he got Kirk, this was the movie mentioned, right?
this is what the other
Yeah.
talk about this and blind dating.
Yeah.
But I'll say this is the thing I leaned into. One, Hector Elizondo's really good in this movie, like more so than he need. Like even by like Gary Marshall standards, he's like really giving it his all in both these Princess Diary movies in a way that I'm like, does he? Like, is this his Oscar play? Like, what are we doing? Like, he's really good in these.
Yeah.
The other thing is, in spite of all of the movie going on, that's very sitcom-y, and it's Gary Marshall, so it's not like directed especially interestingly. It's just like, yeah, I put the cameras out and the actors did their thing. There is a slumber party sequence in the middle of this movie that's really fun and special. Like it has Julie Andrews actually singing, which is like a big deal because like she had throat surgery. Like she was not singing for a long time. And so the fact that she and like Raven get together and like have a song and dance number, and they're like a bunch of kids are like going down the stairs on a slide with their bed cushion. Like it's a good like 10-15 minute chunk of this movie. I'm like, this is just delightful. Like, this is the kind of thing that I can entirely get behind. The rest of the movie, whatever. Hathaway's doing her thing here. Like, she's fine in the first one, and then she's good in this one. They just they had to find this just this horrible ugly duckling character. So good on them for. But like no, this movie I can't say that I like it, but like it has, like I said, this one big moment. It has Elizondo. The rest of it's like whatever. But if you're gonna watch Princess Diaries, you might as well watch the second one. It's just in case Disney Plus throws on a terrible third movie that you have to watch eventually. So
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm gonna echo Aaron here because a lot of it sound like you read my notes before this because there's a lot of the same because like you mentioned the slumber party scene in this movie. And yeah, that's fun. There's a lot there. There's something there that I want in the rest of this movie that's not there. A lot of it feels like a lot of loose, not completely thought out scenes to get to where they need to be. I'd never seen any of the Princess Diaries before this. Shocker, I know.
But you read all the books, so you were there.
Yes, actually my sister has read the books, and so I mentioned this to her, and like because I was like I mentioned I didn't care much for the second Princess Diaries after enjoying the first one. I went back and watched both of them because I do the work here. And except for Yu-Gi-Oh, I do not go back and watch all the Yu-Gi-Ohs.
That will do that.
So, and she said that she was kind of underwhelmed by the films because the books are so good. So she wasn't even taken with the first one too much because she was a fan. She had read the books. So, but she just said this first one's better. This one, yeah, like this is classic sequel thing. Like, okay, I guess we'll do another one, but the diminishing returns in terms of not just financially like supporting a film, but like the creative stuff is like just not like they didn't think, oh, we got to make this banger sequel to the Princess Diaries. It was just let's do another one. Except we already completed what we really needed to the first time. So what kind of problems can we have here? Can we, because the idea with the first one's the transformation, and now what are we doing here? Like now we got
there's a good problem they set up, but the movie for whatever reason is like we need this to be 2 hours.
Yeah, and Chris, it's fun to see young Chris Pine, but he's not that great in this. Like I'm
very good in many other films, but I thought he was kind of terrible in this.
Yeah, he's my favorite of the Chris's with the all around stuff. I like him as a person in interviews and like this fucking book nerd guy that probably doesn't have a phone. Like I enjoy that about him.
Honestly, Pool Man's taking his stock down for me a little bit.
I guess so. That's why I'm not watching Pool Man. I want to stay high with him.
He's still high on the Chris list, but I'm looking at other Chris's right now.
Yeah, this is your moment, Evans. This is your moment.
Walking is right there.
Yeah, walking. So yeah,
this movie
just kind of feels like it's not hungry anymore. Like the first one was hungry. This one isn't, and it piddles around with like something kind of see coming from a mile away. Yeah, Hector Elizondo is wonderful in both these movies. It's just like he just kills it every time there's a scene, and anytime it calls for it, he goes above and beyond rather than just landing it there. Like we'd be probably talking about him the same way if he just landed it, but no, he just boom with everything. So you're happy at the end when he gets to be the king.
His relationship is more interesting than the core relationship.
Yes, it is.
Him and Julie Andrews.
He has scenes against Gimli. I'm doing against Sala, where I'm like, is this his Oscar clip? Like, is this like what he submits like for the Golden Globe? Like, what is he getting for?
Yeah, but yeah, it's a lot of scenes of dicking around and trying to put this faux thing with Hathaway, which some of the scenes in her and the Dingus guy are kind of fun. I'll watch Anne Hathaway. Like if he says starring Anne Hathaway, you get a chance like that. And it's not just like she's very easy on the eyes, very good looking woman. I enjoy her performances time in, time out. So like she's just someone like
you're a big Bride fan.
A what?
Big Bride Wars fan.
Well, hey, it gets a chance, you know.
That's where they raised Helen and Princess Diaries. So.
Yes.
That's a problem though. Gary Marshall he was trying to pull a Spielberg and do Raising Helen and this. He's just not that guy. He couldn't raise Helen and the royal engagement at the same time.
Oh no.
That's the problem with this movie.
Yes. So
you needed Lucas to bail him out.
So I'm just gonna wonder here, like Scott, was this better than Yu-Gi-Oh?
No.
Please? No. Whoa.
Yeah, it's better than Yu-Gi-Oh. I mean, it's a movie.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I know I'm being half tongue-in-cheek about Yu-Gi-Oh. I'm not saying it's good. I just was very much in the right mood for its total absurdity.
Okay.
On the screen, you should say it's flashing. He actually thinks it's good right below when he says that.
I'll just cut words to make it sound like you say.
That works too, yeah.
Yeah. I think the first Princess Diaries is a perfectly solid picture. Obviously, it's Gary Marshall sort of playing around with Pretty Woman in a new sandbox, and that's fine. But yeah, I mean, like not to make everything about superheroes, especially not in 2004, but once you have the origin story and she has taken over she has transformed into the princess and she has taken the throne, there's really not much left to do that isn't just sitcom plot of the week, which is what this is. You've got, from enemies, excuse me, from enemies to lovers, which is a very popular trope in romance fiction, but partially because this is a G-rated movie for children, he's not that much of a dick. So it's almost like, and like the weird thing where like she gets engaged to somebody else, but like they're almost never on screen together. It's like, are people in and around here supposed to buy that marriage is legitimate? I'm not.
And the guy's totally cool with like being a cuck the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's like even nicer than Bill Pullman is in Sleepless. Yeah. Like he's just in there and I guess we're good.
I mean, if I was being used and discarded by Anne Hathaway, I'd be a little sad. I'll be honest. The sleepover scene's a lot of fun because I think that's the one scene that gets into what's the fantasy of this is supposed to be, which is that what if a regular person from a lower social class, you're a princess now.
Nailed it, yeah.
And theoretically, that is what she would do. And the rest of this is like boring royal politics bullshit.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess there's a way to make that interesting, but
not in a fun way like George Lucas provided.
Exactly. Not in a fun Phantom Menace or Game of Thrones or Aquaman style. Yes.
The kind the men like to watch, yeah.
Yeah. This is more Rings of Power bullshit.
Real City of Bones vibes here.
Exactly. Not the cool Shadowhunter stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, but this is a very much I guess we'll make a sequel. It doesn't have to be aggressively good, but as long as we don't completely shit the bed, we'll be okay. And they don't. It is not boring. It is not offensive, but it sort of just sits there like, what we used to think of as a sequel before sequels started becoming good.
Yeah.
Part of that is because they started being based on books that went on and comic books that had established arcs. So you sort of like, okay, this is the next story we tell. Hey, we could use this villain and we can cast this fun actor, and you've got yourself a movie. This, on the other hand, is just sort of meh. It doesn't help that it's an inferior version of Ella Enchanted, which she made several months earlier, which is, a young, grounded, street smart young woman has to sort of convince a handsome man of royalty to not be a dick. And that is a much better version of that story.
Is this the last like live action G rated movie that's like mainstream? Like, not counting like random DVD stuff or whatever. Like I'm sure that's it must be.
Probably, because even back then that was unusual.
Because it's like
I don't know when The Rookie came out. I know that was sort of a what the fuck, a G.
The Rookie, that's PG.
No, it's G.
The Rookie?
Yeah, there was it was weird. You can look it up if you don't believe me, but I know it's sort of like, well, that's weird. Because I know they really bent over backwards to get a G for the first one. Gary Marshall talked about how he had to cut the Chainsaw Massacre at the end, but commerce versus art.
Well, because Heather Metasar was like, I need to do something, so she signs up for Hostel 2 after this.
Yes,
She's
exactly.
Like, I'll do my thing elsewhere.
And it's weird because she has a lot less to do in this film.
She doesn't need to be here.
She doesn't need to be there. But I kind of like that they didn't, because the one thing I do not like about the first one, and whatever, it's not a deal breaker, is that they had their character bring up a number of perfectly valid points about the problems with with the monarchy and bad gender tropes and all that shit. And then, oh no, none of that was true. I was just jealous. But whatever. I mean, it's not a deal breaker.
This movie could have been improved by the last 5 minutes. Everything's working out. And guess what? First movie happens. Mandy Moore comes back in. It's like, guess what? I found out my relative's also a king or whatever, and I'm going to be a princess too. Sets up a cliffhanger for the next one. Face off between Mandy Moore and Hathaway.
That would put butts in seats.
And then John Goodman's like, I'm here too.
Get away from all the cameras. There's 4
and
people.
Then you have Donnie Yen going, my plan is working.
I was thinking about that when I watched the first, because I haven't seen them, right? So I'm watching this. Oh, so before Saved, Mandy Moore was evil in some entirely other movie.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
If she's not the lead, she's the mean girl. Apparently, that's how it works. That's her deal.
Well, I think she, it might just be a matter of she's smart enough to know that that's the best character if you can't be the hero.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, this is completely disposable, entirely irrelevant, and I do love the mini subgenre of Gary Marshall films where Electra Redondo is like the greatest person on the face of the earth.
So you like all of his movies?
Right.
I like those parts of the movies because he's always the most wonderful human being that ever existed in any Gary Marshall movie.
Like, remember we watched Raising Helen for this,
yeah,
right?
And we're all sitting there waiting, and like, when's Heck gonna show up?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, it's the used car lot.
Used car lot. Yep.
It's like Kramer stumbled into the room on a Thursday night. Oh my God, it's
cool. But yes, you're right. I mean, obviously, it's stating the obvious, but he's not inexplicably, he is wonderful in these pictures.
Like, the way we're talking it up sounds like we're being hyperbolic. We're
not.
No.
He elevates the material. I mean, and he has such a relaxed, easygoing chemistry with Julie Andrews that I realize it's not going to happen. It shouldn't happen, but I wanted a movie from their point of view.
Are they going to say they should be king? That's how it ends. She goes back to America and it's like, Heck girls ought to be king now. My question: what was Raven in this movie? Is she like work for the kingdom or something?
Is she what?
Is she like work for the queen or something? Like,
I thought she was like somebody from some other kingdom or something. Like
she just shows up at one point. It's like, Raven's in this, and I'm like, well, what does she do? Because she's like around for a lot of the movie, but she's not.
I thought she was like a visiting piece of royalty from some other.
I don't like. It seemed like she was staff, and part of this is my head being like, why don't there be black people here? That doesn't make sense. And so,
But she was dressed differently, so that signified to me that like she came
so,
from somewhere else.
that's what I figured. But she's just kind of like lingering in the movie, and is like, was she just like on set, and they just like, yeah, we'll give her a role. Like I don't know what was the deal. Like I'm not against it, but it's like,
I
what
assume
was
that
she
she's the
occupied?
murderer in the deleted subplot.
That's what it
Right.
is. That's what she's doing. She killed the maid
Yes.
because there were three maids originally. They just go with the two for most of the movie.
But no, I mean
the
first
Princess Diaries.
I would argue the first one is a perfectly good movie, Then and Now, and this one is not. But it's also not a it's harmless.
It's not awful. No, it's just. I mean, you could hack 20 minutes off it, and it's a better movie.
Yeah,
tighten it up a little bit.
Rewatching the first one for the first time in a while, again, of all the ugly duckling tropes, that first film may be the most hilarious.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. And she has such a dork personality that I love that comes across in a lot of her early work. So yeah, but let's move now on to our Ryan Seacrest Weekly Top 40.
American Top 40 with Ryan Seacrest. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. American Top 40.
Number 10 this week, jumping up 5 spots. Sierra featuring Petey Pablo Goodies enters this conversation. Number 9, The Reason by Hoobastank. Number 8, falling 3 spots, If I Ain't Got You by Alicia Keys. Number 7, dropping 4 spots, Move Your Body by Nita Sky featuring Jabba. Number 6, Dip It Low, Christina Milian. Number 5, jumping up 5 spots, Lil Flip featuring Leah, Sunshine. Number 4, Turn Me On, Kevin Little featuring Spraga Benz. Number 3, we have Confessions by Usher. Confessions Part 2. And then Lean Back jumps up to number 2 by the Terror Squad. And number 1 for the second week, Slow Motion, Juvenile, featuring Soulja Slim. But you know who else moves in slow motion? The Predator. So our next movie is AVP: Alien versus Predator.
In 5 days.
It's time to pick a side.
It's our planet. It's their war. AVP: Alien versus Predator. Rated PG-13.
Directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. Written by Paul W.S. Anderson on a screen story by Paul W.S. Anderson, Dan O'Bannon, and Ronald Shusett. Alien characters by Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett. Predator characters by Jim and John Thomas. Casting on Lathan. Is it Lathan?
Yeah.
Colin Salmon, Lance Henriksen, Raul Bova, Agatha de la Bouye, Joseph Rye, Tommy Flanagan, and Ewan Bremner during an archaeological expedition on Bouveia Island in Antarctica. A team of archaeologists and other scientists find themselves caught up in a battle between the two legends. Soon, the team realize that only one species can win. All right, we are here. Alien versus Predator. This is coming hot off the heels of Freddy versus Jason. Proved to be a winner when you mash up and do the versus movies that people talked about on the playgrounds as kids. So Scott, your thoughts on Alien meeting the Predator?
I saw this film on opening night in August 2004, and I was, boo-hoo, it shouldn't be PG-13, blah, 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 blah. And I'm watching the film, and I keep waiting to hate it. And I'm not saying it's good, but I enjoyed it for what it was, which is a relatively well-made schlock fest with a $70 million budget. Boy, did I take that for granted. From a guy, Paul W.S. Anderson, who, jokes aside, really knows how to do this kind of B movie fantasy cinema. And I think it gets the job done. The production design is decent. I think Lance Henriksen is giving a real performance. Even 20 years ago, not to be performative here, but I thought it was kind of cool that the $70 million movie just starred a black woman for no particular reason.
I definitely thought that years ago, Scott. So thank you.
Yeah. And I mean, I think I like this more than Freddy versus Jason, just because I think it's a better movie. And yeah, I wish it had been R-rated, whatever. I mean, there is an unrated cut with some CGI blood, if that's a deal breaker. I'm sorry, what was that?
Doesn't really change much, but
no. But outside of the, I think it helps that I like Predator, I like Alien, but I'm not a diehard fan of either franchise. So for me, this was just, the ugly alien monster versus the other alien monster, and they fight and they kill a bunch of people in the meantime. So I certainly was not caring about, was this in continuity with this, or was it contradicting that, or Easter eggs and callbacks, and because I didn't get any of that shit, to be honest.
No Yu-Gi-Oh.
Right.
So yeah, as I think it's fine. I think it gets the job done. Unlike its sequel, you can actually see what the fuck is going on screen. That's a well-known piece of infamy that, for whatever reason, Alien versus Predator Requiem is perhaps the darkest mainstream movie ever made. And by that, I mean it's physically dark and you cannot see what's going on probably 60% of the movie, give or take. Which is a shame, because it's very gory, it's very violent, there's lots of creative kills, but you just can't see what the hell's going on.
It's also a bad movie. We should point that out. Like it's
no, it's not a good movie.
On those things, it's even if you could see it, it's still a terrible movie.
Yes, this is true. But it's very sad because you can't see the things about it that actually do work by default. But anyway, back to this one. I think it's a solid 3-star B movie that, on its own merits, I had a good time with it. Right. I think the scene with him and Lathan on the cliff, where they're just talking about, they're basically spelling out their backstories, Hendrickson, and that's a very good scene that perhaps belongs in a better movie, but that scene bought me a lot of capital for the rest of the film.
Gotcha. Aaron?
I saw this in theaters the opening day. I believe last week I said that I got shut out of open water. I believe my friends and I did, because it was packed and the movie Nazis were there to stop us. This week I think is the week that I did see open water first, and because we didn't fucking see Yu-Gi-Oh, that's for sure. So we did. I believe we saw probably open water first, then saw this second maybe or something. Regardless, I saw this opening weekend. I'd been looking forward to this I've been tracking it and everything because I am a fan of Alien and a huge fan of Predator. In a sense that I'm the same way I like Boba Fett, where it's it's just a cool thing. I like this. So give me more of this, please. Where is this going to be? And they're putting them together. Cool. At that time, I was savvy enough to be okay, PG-13. I guess I get it, so I'll deal with that. The other thing that got me was the trailers had this epic shot of 3 predators on a pyramid, and there's all these aliens crawling after them, and there's that's selling a movie that I was aware myself that I'm not going to see that movie. You can try to deal with that marketing, but I know that I'm not going to get a movie that's displaying this on some kind of massive scale. So good on you for having a trailer shot, but I'm walking in with an expectation that I can go along with. There's no real comparison to Freddy vs. Jason beyond they're both versus movies, but in the realm of that, I would agree this is a better movie. This doesn't have a scene where a terrible CG alien Freddy bug crawls into somebody's face, so by default it wins. I like that they come up with a plot that works. I mean, I think a key to all of this is I don't take this shit that seriously. I like Alien and Predator a lot more than I think Scott does, but I'm not sitting here being I hope the Alien vs. Predator movie does all the things the lore requires for me to appreciate it the same way that John McTiernan and Ridley Scott were able to come up with when they came out. Like, I'm looking at this being like, this is an August release of a Paul W.S. Anderson movie. I'm going to take what I can get here. Now, Brandon, you know this. I am very big on Paul W.S. Anderson movies that do not have Resident Evil in the title. Give or take a soldier, I like most of his filmography. I think the first Mortal Kombat is a very effective Enter the Dragon ripoff. We all have thoughts at Event Horizon. It does the job.
Magnolia is a fucking masterpiece.
Magnolia's, I'm more of a punch drunk Monster Hunter fan, but you take what you get. So like him being on this, cool. Like I know I'm gonna get good production design and like practical things to go along with all this. All this is to say I like this movie, like Scott. Like I would call it good in the realm of what it's aiming to do. Like it establishes a easily digestible plot line that makes a level of sense, like for this kind of a thing in the realm of like B horror movie stuff goes. It gives me a handful of characters that I can follow along with. People complain about like, and then they just kill them all. I'm like, what do you want in these movies? Like, would you want them all to make it out? Like,
what happened in the? I'd like you to. Did you watch the other movies? Did you see what happened?
Like, what expectation do you have? Where it's like, how come they kill? How come we had to spend all this time with these people only for them to die? What do you? Okay.
To paraphrase a different Zach Braff line from a Zach Braff show that always gets me choked up. What movie do you think you're in?
So the thing I noticed this time watching it, I've watched this movie a lot. Like I've seen this movie many times at this point. All the characters are kind of dicks to each other, like with the exception of Lance Hendrickson and Ewan Bremner. Everybody else is kind of an asshole to somebody else. Colin Salmon the most, like, for whatever reason. There are just choices made where people are just automatically antagonistic to each other. And I always wonder, it's like, is this a directorial choice to like have to like we can agree with the plot for the most part and want to get behind these characters, but at the same time, you're okay seeing them die because like they're kind of jerks to each other. There's a bit where they're in like the sarcophagus area and like they're pulling the guns out, and the guy's like, "Don't pull that one." And not only does Common Talon Salmon like pull it, he looks directly into his eyes and pulls the thing up. And I'm like, what? Like, like everyone's just mean. When Ewan Bremner's just trying to like ask casual questions, you have what's his face from Braveheart, like Tommy Flanagan being like, "Get out of there, Miller," and I'm like, like ease it down, guy. Like we're just trying to like figure things out. So like that. Okay, so that's that stuff. The Alien Predator, cool. Like it has some fights. My the big thing I have in this movie is not the R-rated stuff because it's like I've seen Predators skin things. I'm fine if I don't see it this time around. It's more. You got three predators here. I get that they're going through their bar mitzvah, so like they're not full predators yet. That's what they call it, guaranteed. Look it up in the lore. But like two of them get taken out like chumps, and I'm like, well, those guys sucked. Like this,
yeah,
it always kind of gets me. Where I'm like, I'm used to seeing predators be like the worst thing you can encounter. Granted, xenomorphs, no easy walk in the park either, but at the same time, it's like they just slaughter two predators.
They
like,
usually make it till like 2 to 3 minutes before the credits roll.
Yeah. That said, it does make sense to have one predator as opposed to a bunch of predators. Cause it's like then you have a Superman problem right there. It's like that's just
hundreds of predators.
It's just too much. Yeah, exactly. It's just too much power. hundreds of males and only one female. Like who's gonna make it out of this one? Like so. Like the fight stuff is fun. You get like cool shots of like a predator throwing an alien, or you get I like that they give because the xenomorphs are they're just xenomorphs. So it's like, what do you do? Well, one of them got a net in its face, and now it has a grid. I'm like, okay, cool. Like they got ideas. The queen stuff is fun, mainly because we only had like one other alien queen to look at in another alien. So it's like, cool, we got another one of those. I like to think that the PG-13 rating that says for slime, among other reasons, is entirely because of the scene where you see the alien queen birthing like eggs, like because it's really graphic, even though it's an alien. So it's like it's not technically anything but what it is, but it's like it's excessively slimy to the point where I'm thinking somebody must have wrote slime in their notes and that's why it's in the rating. It's like for that specific scene. The fact you mentioned Sanaa Lathan being, the lead of this movie, the final girl, essentially. That honestly, that is cool. Like walking into this, I knew who was in it, and I figured like you'll probably get like 2 survivors maybe, and like no, it's just her. It's like, well, it was always going to be that. But like, yeah, for a $70 million blockbuster summer movie about aliens and predators, like, yeah, it is nice that Love and Basketball Sanaa Lathan is the lead of this film. Lance Anderson does this thing. I always forget that Nestor Carbonell's not the Raul character in this movie. I always think, isn't that him? It's like, no, it's not. Um, uh, yeah, no, I think this movie does the job for what it's going for. The fact that they make it, it's successful enough for them to get the sequel. It's like, yeah, people seem to agree. Like it's not, it's in that kind of snakes on a plane zone where I'm like, this is better than it really needed to be. Like it does the job.
Mm-hmm. So this movie I was looking forward to. I was an Aliens fan and Predator. I liked them both, and there was when Predator 2, just like when Jason Goes to Hell, suggests that these two, beyond your talking about who would win in a fight to your friends, acknowledge each other within a movie. You were like, oh, they're gonna make the movie. Um, but unlike Freddy versus Jason, like Alien versus Predator was like a real deal. They had like comic books, they had books, arcade games, like, and there was also RoboCop versus Terminator. We never got that.
Yes.
Yes.
Scott keeps asking for it to happen. They don't give it to him.
Scott, you say they're listening, right?
Yeah,
this is where you say they'll hear you.
He texted me before this podcast to make sure he'll mention this. So
I hope it's Genesis specific Terminator and the Joel Kinnaman RoboCop the fight.
Well, Matt Smith will become RoboCop.
Well, Skydance isn't buying Paramount anymore, so they have money to burn.
Yeah, they'll go to Warner Brothers and.
So okay, so I'm despite whatever, I'm looking forward to this movie, and I go to see it the first Friday afternoon show, and I'm like looking on the computer for show times on the movie theater. I'm in Muncie, I'm in Ball State, and there's like no times. It's not even listed. I'm like, God, lazy bastards didn't update their site or something. And I go down to buy the ticket, and I find out about the whole like our theaters are boycotting Fox movies because of disagreement and stuff. I'm like, what the? And I was so angry, I just didn't go see it. I didn't want to drive a couple towns over. I just nope. And then I just never saw it in the theater. I rented it on DVD the week it came out on DVD, and I had already heard that it wasn't good. That was the thing. It was a bad movie. But I said, you know what? I don't care, because I was like one of the 5 people that liked Predator 2. So maybe I'm going to like this. Because Predator 2, I don't know what we think of it now, but it was not liked. It was like considered a bad sequel for a long time.
We would have been friends back in the day, because I've been championing.
It's a perfectly fine movie. I
was 8 years old watching it.
I owned Predator 2 on VHS. I did not own the first one. Oddly enough. Crazy, right?
When the DVD for Predator 2 hit, I felt like I found a fucking holy grail. It was like, finally.
Right, yeah. It took forever on Blu-ray. And then 4K, they're like, yeah, here's all the Predator movies. Alien, they're like, we'll get to them, okay? We just got Alien.
That the quadrilogy is not on 4K yet Predator is.
Right. So wild. So I watched this movie and I did not like it. And then it was weird. I was just like, whatever. PG-13 didn't bother me. I don't know what it was, but then like I realized like this is like, I don't know. I read the comic stuff. There's stuff they're actually pulling from stuff from books. Yeah, they're pulling from like this. Lathan's character is based on a character in the comics. I thought the thing that bugged me, like of all the like nitpick, like Lance Henriksen being the guy from Wayland Yutani, I'm like, because Ian Holm was a fucking robot, and the other one was there. Like, does he have a brother that looks like him? Like, that was the first robot, you know.
I always thought it was just like a vain thing that kind of guy would do, because I was more on like 3, like I guess these is great grandson or something. Like I was trying to like make the time work, like
right.
Descendant of him.
So skip forward. I needed to grow up a bit before I appreciated the movie and like realize like what were my expectations and what's this movie doing.
Only real adults come to realize how good this movie is.
And it's good. This is a good movie. I don't know what I was thinking back then. Like, and the thing is, all the Alien movies at this point have had different director with distinct voice and style, and this one's no different. To be honest with you, it's Paul W.S. Anderson making a comic book movie. Like, this is what this is. It's very much a comic book movie. I could see panels and things happen, things play out. The relationship with Lathan and the Predator feels like something you'd see in a comic, but doesn't quite. Hard to translate that kind of thing on the screen for people to be believable. It works here, but it's a sort of a stretch thing that you could see on a panel, but doesn't exactly translate right there. I think it's one of Paul W.S. Anderson's best movies. And like, I think it's kind of brilliant, the choice of seclusion and the idea to set the story up that actually delivers like what Alien House is best in a sneaky way with that pyramid thing. And then it becomes basically like a ship that you're in, but you're on Earth, what they want to do. And then like, it's a movie that with all the Predator and all the alien stuff, it does all the stuff, but you never feel overloaded on the stuff. Like it naturally progresses things. Like, it gives you the goods of the Predator movies. It gives you the goods of the Alien, and lots of them. Like, you get the Queen, you get all that, but it never feels overstuffed with that kind of thing. So
that's fair. Yeah.
And yeah, I don't mind the characters here. It's like, yeah, it is a really solid, good movie that is good for both. Like, I don't know. I think this is aged incredibly well compared to like a lot of shit we've got. And we have gotten two Alien movies that I've liked since, and we've gotten Predator movies I've liked since, but this is still really good and really solid with them. This isn't the bane of existence to both these that people want to think it is. It is, you like, who is like Scott, who cares? Like, you gotta throw out, like, this is its own like mythology. You can't just like, well, how's this fit with Alien? Screw it. This is James Bond. It just is. This is just a story. This is like a what if. This is a what if. This is how how it goes. Things don't always have to have that through line, that explanation. They can just be. And this should
like,
be.
There's the kind of, because I think that it works better if you think of it more as a Predator movie than an Alien movie. And I say that as far as the Predator, as fucking great as the first Predator is, and yes, I really like Predator 2, but like, it is the B series where like Alien Alien is a, it's within that redefining.
Alien is Michael Myers and Predator is Jason. That's kind of where
that's a very, and so like that's, and with that in mind, you have Alien and Aliens, Alien Cubed, Alien 3, and Alien Resurrection. It's like, I know that there's fans out there, but it's not hard to say that those are significant step down. And so by the time you get to Alien versus Predator, like, regardless of the lore aspect and stuff, and I agree with you, I've already said so, it's like, you can throw that out, like, this, who cares? I don't see, it feels like there's this need to be like, it can't match these other things, or like, these franchise, this is between them, what, the 7th movie about B horror creatures. Like, there's not a lot of room here to be like, we have to make sure to elevate this to some kind of level. Like, I don't know what level that is, but I don't think it exists in the way that it seems some want to. And it's like, just don't, I'm looking at this for what it is. I would like, what's the better version of Alien versus Predator? It's not the sequel. Therefore, I feel like I have my answer. Like,
I mean, a lot of people like the books and the comic books, but this is them being put into a movie. Like, it really is. And it's kind of interesting. I was thinking, like, this is Paul W.S. Anderson again working with Colin Sandeman, and also in a secret layer that is housed underneath. Like, it's Resident Evil again, almost, but better. And yeah, the only thing, this is kind of where I was like, it's the Predator itself as a monster is kind of getting to that point of where it's almost like obvious guy in costume kind of thing.
No, that's the biggest.
That might be, and then they run with that in the third act.
Right. It might be the handling of it when the talent with the director compared to what's been before. Maybe some of the budget of the movie, but I'm like, okay, Predator never felt like guy in costume before. But also, Wes, he doesn't do, like, when does he come in and direct the second Resident Evil, right? Or does he do the first one?
He does the first, and then like the fourth and fifth and sixth.
So like the second one, which he produces, right?
He's still involved. He's the showrunner.
Nemesis, very much guy in costume looking creature, and then here he's with the Predator, and that's very much. It's not like super obvious, but there's a couple shots and stuff where I'm like, ooh, is this where
when he's not lurking? Like there's a fucking cool shot where he like they're shooting bullets and he jumps through the air and turns on his cloaking and is like, that's Predator. That's cool. I'm into it.
Yeah.
It's yes, when you're watching them in like two shots on the ground, they didn't hire big Chungus guys. They don't have Kevin Peter Hall, one of the greatest actors of all time. I totally mean it.
KPH.
They don't have a guy that's like 6'7" or above in this suit anymore. And and it shows, like, because the Predator costume is chunky. It's this giant thing with muscles, face, and hair. You can't, if you don't get a tall guy for that, it makes a difference. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
That I assume are either stuntmen or motion performer kind of guys, but they're not big guys, and that does make a difference. It does, so it limits how cool the Predator is by comparison, and yeah, that's an issue. I think the Requiem, I think it does manage to handle that a little better. It's just as Scott said, can't fucking see anything.
Yeah. And do you guys remember when the press tour and stuff with Requiem was like, yeah, we made this movie to give a finger to the previous one. That was kind of the attitude with it.
It was,
and no,
you did.
Yeah, you fingered yourself, but you did. But yeah,
like when Alan Taylor was promoting Terminator Geonosis by saying how Thor: The Dark World wasn't my vision. Marvel took it away from me. This well-reviewed $600 million grossing smash hit wasn't me. But Terminator Geonosis, that's all me, motherfucker.
It's the real shit right here.
Yeah.
I got Matt Smith playing a guy that screams into cameras.
Yeah.
A couple other things I think are worth. First of all, I think, I didn't think about it at the time, but, one reason I don't think the PG-13 does that much harm is because other than part 4, the first 3 Alien movies aren't particularly gory. I mean, they're R-rated pictures, but they're not, grindhouse stuff.
I mean, like, I think Alien 3 is mostly like adult themes. Is like, because there's like an attempted rape in there, and like that's going to get you an R.
Let's not sidestep the fact that John Hurt has a thing climb through his chest and blood's everywhere. But I hear what you're saying, Scott. Yes, it's not a Grand Guignol of gothic horror.
I mean, it still delivers the gross.
Yeah.
Like that's not a problem.
But the Predator films are very gory. I'll say that.
Yes.
Two was NC-17
because they skin people. I mean, the Predator skins people. There's.
Oh, it is a little jarring in Alien vs. Predator when they kill like 5 guys up top on like not in the pyramid, and they just like hang them up, and they're just like still wearing their skin. I always chalk it up to they're on their bar mitzvah. They don't have time to do this yet. They don't even have. They're trying to get down to the thing down below.
And in terms of things that shouldn't work but somehow do, I do appreciate the third act turn where it turns into a buddy cop action at the end.
Oh, that's great. Oh my god,
which is astonishing.
I had a ball in the theater with my friends. We were just laughing it up, just enjoying this. Yes, the running. There's a bit where like he takes the mask off and she looks into his eyes. Someone in the theater says this. She's like, someone went, "Give us your sugar, baby," because it's like the kind of face he's making with his fucking mandrels all over and everything. And it's like, are they gonna make out right now? Like, what's happening?
Well, there's like a thing that in this between this and Resident Evil Nemesis that I picked up back there. Like, there's this like big hulking monster bad guy who's just bad the whole time. He's gonna kill you. He's gonna kill you. And then the other bad guys do something, and the monster that stops and goes, "You know what? They've gone too far. I'm gonna help you." And that's like, all right.
It really Texas Chainsaw 3D that one.
Yeah, no, it's doing your thing, cuz
with I did say, is there a better version of this? I mean, if between the reinvigoration of Predator through Prey, and if Alien Romulus is any good, who knows? Maybe Dan Trachtenberg gets a universe together and we get them back together again to see where that takes us.
Romulus should be out by around now when we were
like out this
weekend. Yeah. Which I know people are excited that trailer. I'm just like, I just looks like, hey, look, it's like that thing you liked before. Like, I'm not getting what I'm looking forward to it because it's a new Alien movie, and I'm a person who likes to watch new Alien because I've seen a lot of like, who wants another Alien movie? I'm like, Alien fans. I don't know, but like,
I'm more excited. I like the trailers quite a bit.
I think they're fine, but I'm like, it just looks safe. To me. Whereas we're coming off Prometheus and Covenant, where I'm like, there's something moving here.
I'm always gonna have a disappointment in me that Ridley Scott's not being able to finish his robot trilogy that he clearly wanted to make.
Yeah,
but I mean, Fede Alvarez does a lot for me. I think
he does. Yeah,
especially the girl with the spider web or whatever the fuck that movie was. We all know and love that movie very much.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But I think that the Prey drafts I think are helping as well. I think that is it's like if Fox
which I will argue the people put this in theaters. I'm like, because you weren't going to show up. I went to the other Predator movies. Nobody was there. Like you were going to show up for this one. No,
the
you
one
weren't.
with nobody you've heard of that takes place, 200 years ago.
But
no,
and
we're not going to show up.
And you know why you got to you're sitting there loving it now because you got to sit on your ass at home and randomly peruse it.
In spite of its commercial prospects for a movie that I did get to see in theaters thanks to a screening, I I do think if Fox, Disney, whatever the hell, if 20th Century wants
Disney
wants to square away a few tens of millions for one of these movies every now and then, cool, good for them.
Yeah. No, I do like both series, and I've been there for every one anytime they come out. But yeah, like the new one, I'm just kind of like, okay, well, I want it, I want to like it, but the trailers aren't making me go like, this is the real shit.
I'm into it a little. The fact that I've seen the first teaser so many times and not bored by it, it's like, well, that's something.
I mean, the funny thing is, like, well, with like Prometheus, they were selling it as, hey, we went back to the roots. We're doing it like the old one. And now this is like, hey, we went back to the roots. We're doing it like we went there. Like, right? This is the second time they're trying to circle back. I don't know.
By the way, whoever wins, we lose is one of the greatest taglines of all time.
Yeah, because you can apply it to everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
They're like, this time is personal. This time is personal. This time is personal.
Speaking of cool stuff of this movie, there are like the action stuff. I mentioned it a little bit, but there is cool like just choices as far as if I want to see a movie about Alien vs Predator, what do I want to see? Face huggers, cloaking, discs and laser guns and shit. Like it has all those things, and I think W.S. Anderson, he seems like the kind of, I mean, he's made 6 fucking Resident Evil movies. I think he's a nerd. He has the kind of sense in a Monster Hunter movie, which is I like quite
really nerdy.
And a Three Musketeers movie,
and a steampunk Three Musketeers,
yeah,
which kind of rules.
Dork,
yeah.
But there's some choices where it just feels like he gets what like an audience would want to see in a lot of these things, and he has more means to do so with this movie compared to something like Mortal Kombat, where we get that legendary reptile representation. This one has like, there's a moment where like 3, 4, or 5 facehuggers jump out of eggs in slow motion, and I remember in the theater everyone being silent and be like, "Oh my god!" Like, because it's neat to see that realized on screen.
Yeah.
Or when the end when the queen's coming after Son of Latham and the predator jumps in slow motion and like stabs it through the eye. It's like, this is cool shit. Like, I don't know. There's nothing. This is 20 years later. The jury's out on Alien vs Predator, but I do think there's enough here to be like, this movie works for what it's going for. It has.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's aiming in the right spot of how to accomplish what this thing is. So.
Yeah, I don't think we need to convince ourselves, but did we convince you, listener? Did you? You gonna go check it out again? You gonna change your mind?
Requiem Fan 101 says,
I did.
I don't.
Okay, so Alien versus Predator versus the box office, Scott.
Alien versus Predator won the box office.
Yeah.
As I stall for time to bring up the yes, it was Olympic weekend. $38 million, opening slightly above Freddy versus Jason, basically on the same weekend, give or take, in 2003. This was a terrific opening. Obviously, it was the biggest ever for either franchise. It would leg out. Well, it wouldn't leg out. Haha. It would earn $80 million domestic, 97 overseas, 177 worldwide on a 60 budget. 60, 70 depends on who you ask. Which not a mega smash, but again, that was more than good enough, especially back then.
And it
I'm sure
lives
it sold it.
forever on
Exactly.
DVD and Blu-ray, like because they had all those unrated releases, of course,
Yeah.
right? It was just get at home, and it's on FX every day. Like it just had like legs.
No, that's the kind of movie that if you told me it made more post theatrical than theatrical, I would believe you.
Like 3 times over, I'm sure.
Yeah. Princess Diaries 2 Royal Engagement opening to $23 million, a rock solid opening weekend.
Good.
Yeah.
Actually, even better because it opened on a Wednesday. It did 37 million in the first 5 days.
Man.
Why are all these Wednesday releases happening this summer? This is so weird.
Probably beating
Olympics.
up the
Olympics.
ahead of the Olympics.
Even then, like makes sense. But like we had some earlier in the summer too that were like Wednesdays, and it's like, all right.
Yeah, Spider-Man did Wednesday. It's probably getting ahead of the holiday too.
That one was July 4th. There's other ones. I get these main ones. I understand. King Arthur was like a Wednesday. It was like
that was weird. Let people know that it's bad ahead of time. No, I'm kidding. 95 million domestic in the end with 135 worldwide on a 40 budget. That's a hit.
That's wild. They didn't make 3.
Yeah. Well, Hathaway is taking it off because what Prada's. Well, no, a little still
2 years later.
2 years. Is it 2 years? 2 years later. Okay.
Gary Marshall wanted to make his Day trilogy.
Collateral made 16.1 in weekend 2, dropping 35% for a $52 million. Yeah, it's a very solid. Goal. For a $52.5 million 10-day total. It would, of course, top out at 101 domestic and 220 worldwide on a 65 budget. Meanwhile, the best film of the weekend, if not the summer, Yu-Gi-Oh! The movie Pyramid of Light opened to $9.4 million on 2,400 screens. It would top out to a whopping $19.7 million. That's a bit front-loaded, folks. Shocker, I know.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, that can't cost that much.
Oh no, this is pure money.
It was probably. Does it count as like an import at that point? Like, just distribute.
Well, like by comparison, like Pokemon's open pretty big, right? Or at least the first.
Oh God, the first Pokemon did $50 million in the first 5 days, but it did 85 total, so it was obviously very front loaded.
And the audience, that
indeed.
Didn't catch them all. No.
The Bone Collector got away.
The clues.
29.1 worldwide total for Yu-Gi-Oh! The movie Pyramid of Light, which again, for perfectly fine for that. Born Supremacy would make 8.6 million, dropping 40% its 4th weekend to be at 140 million by day 24. It would top out at 290 worldwide on a 75 budget.
Born's probably great at Yu-Gi-Oh!
The Village dropped 56%. Which isn't great especially for, it's not a sequel, it's not a franchise film, yada, yada, yada. But it still made $7.1 million. It would top out at 100 million after, I'm sorry, this was its third weekend. I apologize.
Yeah.
So yeah, whatever. 100 million after 17 days. It would top out at 257 on a 60 budget, which again, huge considering, but anyway. Manchurian Candidate would drop 41% in weekend 3 for a $6 million weekend. 48 million in 17 days. It would top it at 96 on an 80 budget. Again, very much not a hit, but Denzel Washington's in trouble. I don't know if he's ever gonna get work again.
He's out of time.
I wish he had more time. Jesus. You got something stuck up there?
Yeah. iRobot, 3.9 million minus 40%. 134 million in a month. It would top out at 353 on a 120 budget. Which back then, that was a big fucking hit. Yeah. That's what was normal. Little Black Book dropped 46% in weekend 2, which is pretty bad for a rom-com or whatever you want to call this.
So was its ending.
Indeed. $3.8 million, 14.7 million after 10 days. It would top out at 22 worldwide on a 35 budget. Spider-Man, 3.5 minus 35, 361 after 7 weekends in release. It would top out at 784 worldwide. There's a couple re-releases thrown in.
So not a billion. Failure.
Indeed.
The reason was you.
Ha.
Obviously, the only thing they can do now is throw in Venom for the next one.
Good.
Napoleon Dynamite expanding to 563 theaters, earned $1.7 million in its 10th weekend for a $16 million domestic cube. Harold and Kumar, and we're out of the top. Oh, Garden State. That's what I forgot.
Number 12.
Number 12 in 175 theaters, expanded to it added 140 screens. It would make $1.4 million for a $2.6 million total, and it would leg out to $26.7 million domestic.
Yeah, it does like
yeah. Movies leg back then. Small movies that were somewhat mainstream stuck around.
Did that have any
slowly open it wider and wider, spread the word, keep the
Did that have any awards buzz at the time?
There was talk that, I mean, it was people thought possibly like internet chatter, but I don't think there's any serious.
Like, what would it be for? Like screenplay, maybe, I guess.
Natalie Portman, best supporting actress.
Like
she is Closer this year, right? That goes away.
Yes, that's at the end of the year.
That goes away real fast.
It's a cumulative thing, right? She gets the big Mike Nichols film is going to get the more attention at that point.
Yeah.
Also, she plays a stripper, so a lot of voters that otherwise wouldn't have seen a Natalie Portman film watch that one because they're gentlemen and respectable people.
Huh.
Because of all the schlock that she was doing beforehand, and not
exactly.
So, guys, I'm almost out of hope for Thunderbirds 2.
$225,000.
Yeah.
It lost 1,489 theaters. It earned 225 grand.
It didn't lose them. It shared them with the other movies.
Yes, Brandon, that's how it works.
Yeah.
There was 4 kids' birthday parties that weekend. Those are the ones that went to see Thunderbirds.
Yes. They didn't, but they didn't have a choice in the matter. 28 million worldwide on a 57 budget. Spoiler, there is no Thunderbirds 2.
Scott, damn it.
Sorry. There's another anime movie in the top 35 this weekend. Something called Kuyan Ho Gaya Na. Oh no, I'm going to hell. That's not anime. It looks like an Indian romantic comedy. Nice. I'm a terrible person. Jesus.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
That's all we got.
Okay. Well, that'll do it for this one. So thank you, Scott and Aaron, for joining me. Thank you for listening, folks. So till next week, Scott, where can people keep up with you?
I'm at Puck News on a semi-weekly basis, doing part of his column on Monday night. And I run and maintain the Outside Scoop, which is a Substack that I try to update on a daily basis.
And has a podcast you can subscribe to.
Oh, yes. Looking at what's left for the summer, can we just stop here?
Nope. We will continue on.
Things I'm looking forward to with the rest of
this. So, Aaron, what about you?
What?
We'll talk about it when we get there.
Yeah.
I am the editor-in-chief over at We Live Entertainment. All my movie reviews can be found there. I write movie and Blu-ray and Criterion reviews over at Why So Blue. I host a podcast out now with Aaron and Abe, where we talk about weekly movie releases and a lot of bonus stuff, including my attempts to join Medieval Times, obviously. I am everything I do ends up on my personal Substack page at codazeek.substack.com, and I'm on all the socials at Aaron's PS4.
All right, and I'm on social media at Brandon4KUHD. PopCon Louisville is coming up very soon, so come see the podcast stage there or sign up for it if I still have spots open. That information at popcon.us, happening August 24th through 26th at the Louisville, Kentucky Convention Center. Next week, 2 more episodes, folks. So next week, Off the Leash and Without a Paddle, we begin an exorcism to kick our devilish Nicotina habit. All that and more as the summer of 2004-20 heads into its penultimate episode.